Today we're going to be looking at making an ionic bonding model. For your assignment, you will be dealing with magnesium and fluorine, but for this sample, we will be dealing with calcium and chlorine. So we're going to use the tools provided on the drawing to help us build an ionic model. So we'll follow each step and build along the way. So use the red spheres for calcium and yellow for chlorine, as labeled. Use the correct number of spheres to indicate how many particles of each element would bond. So if we have our formula and we have calcium and chlorine. Calcium has 2 valence electrons, so it'll have a charge of +2, and chlorine will have it wants to gain 1, so it'll have a charge of -1. And we want to make this neutral when they bond. So if we have a +2 and a -1 for the charges, and we want them to be equal, we're going to have to add another chlorine to make it +2 and -2, so they're equal. So the formula for calcium chloride is Ca. I'm going to hit Control period. Oops. Cl. Sorry. Ca. Cl. And after Cl, I'm going to put a subscript of a 2 to show that there are 2 chlorine. So the formula for this would be CaCl2. And when naming, the first that comes first is the metal. So we're going to say calcium. Then after comes the nonmetal with IDE at the end. So instead of chlorine, we're going to have chloride. So calcium chloride. And we're going to kind of draw a model now. So we have 1 calcium, is our red here. And we're going to have 2 chlorine. So we're going to hit Control Copy and Paste. We're going to have our 2 chlorines. And they're going to want to bond together. So it says add arrows showing the direction and amount of electron transfer where appropriate. So I'm going to create a text box. And this is going to be Ca. You might have to move and shift some things around. So Ca is inside the red. I'm going to do the same thing and put Cl in the 2 yellow. I am going to copy this and use that, and I'll get rid of the other yellow. Okay, so I have 1 Ca, 2 Cls. I'm going to now draw the arrows showing where energy, so it's going to go from the metal to the nonmetal, is where the electrons will go, from the metal to the nonmetal. And I'll write a text box because it says to show the direction and the electron transfer. So this calcium is going to give 1 electron to 1 chlorine. And it's going to give its other extra electron to the other chlorine. So it has 2 to give away. It's going to give those 2 away to 2 separate chlorine. Then we're going to show the actual, these are the separates of the ions. We're going to show them bonded, so the ionic bond happening. So we will start with our calcium, and the arrow is showing us the direction, so it's going to be pulled towards the chlorine. So we're going to have our 2 chlorine now touching our calcium. And we're going to put Cl inside them also, but this time we're going to show the charges. So right here, calcium is going to now have a charge of +2 because it's giving away those electrons. So we'll have Ca +2. Then for our chlorine, they're gaining a negative each. So they're going to become Cl -1. So Cl -1 in the first, and then continuing it for the second. So draw the bonded ionic compound with correct charges to indicate each ion. So here's us showing our ions. Cl is a -1 ion, Ca is a +2 ion. Name the compound, we've named it. Write the formula, we've written the formula. And it says describe the formation of the compound. So we're going to write a description about what's happening. So I'm going to describe what I see over here. So I see 1 calcium atom is losing 2 electrons to become a calcium control period +2 ion. Then the 2 chlorine atoms gain, that's where the arrows are coming in here, they're gaining 1 electron each to become Cl -1 ions. And then go back and double check spelling. So right here, this calcium is giving up its 2 ions. Each chlorine is gaining. It's going to become calcium chloride is the name. And the formula, 1 calcium. The subscript is telling us there are 2 chlorine atoms. So 1 calcium, 2 chlorine. And that is how you do the ionic bonding model.